How to support someone with an eating disorder. There are lots of things you can do to help a friend or family member with an eating disorder. You're already taking positive steps to supporting someone with an eating disorder by looking for information on how to help them. This shows you care and are trying to understand how they're feeling. Getting help for someone with an eating disorder. Your loved one might not know they have an eating disorder. They might deny it or avoid talking about their eating or their weight because it's such a painful, stressful subject for them. Let them know you're worried about them and encourage them to see a GP. You could even offer to go with them. Have more information on planning an appointment, how to talk to your GP and what will happen at an appointment. There's a lot of information and advice available for parents and carers, including what to do if you're worried about a friend or family member. What to do if you're worried about a colleague. Supported, I care for someone with an eating disorder. Feast, info for parents. Ways to help someone with an eating disorder. It's important to separate the identity of your loved one from the eating disorder. Try to help them to understand that they are not the problem, the eating disorder is. To support someone with an eating disorder, you can reassure your loved one the eating disorder is not their fault. Acknowledge how difficult the illness is for your loved one. Learn about eating disorders. Ask your loved one how they're feeling and don't make assumptions. Try not to discuss your own weight, shape, or diets in front of your loved one. Try to display a positive relationship with your own food, body shape, and exercise. Try to help them to understand that you are there to help them overcome the eating disorder. Remind yourself that things can change and reassure your loved one that recovery is possible. You can ask your loved one what you can do to help. For example, you might be able to help them by supporting them to stick to regular eating, agreeing boundaries following mealtimes, or allowing them space to talk about how they're feeling. Your loved one might ask to be left alone, but you can remind them that you are there if they need you. Read Beats 10 Things to Say to Someone with an Eating Disorder. Cared have advice on how to separate your loved one from the eating disorder. Eva Musby offers advice to parents of children and young people with anorexia and other eating disorders. Avoid common assumptions about eating disorders. Sometimes people might assume eating problems are linked to certain behaviors or physical traits. For example, some people might not know eating disorders are not only about body image. You can't tell what eating disorder someone has just from their appearance. Young women aren't the only people who experience eating problems. A person doesn't choose to have an eating disorder. Anyone can experience eating problems regardless of age, gender, weight, or background. Dealing with other people's misconceptions and the myths about eating disorders can be difficult for people with eating disorders to cope with. It might be helpful to agree a communication with family members to help them understand better and to prevent them making unhelpful comments. How to be supportive at mealtimes. Mealtimes can be stressful for people with an eating disorder and their friends and family members. There are things you can do to help try and make things go smoothly and make your loved one feel more comfortable. Plan your mealtimes with your loved one and include them in discussions about what you'll be eating, when and who else will be there. If shopping for food is stressful for your loved one, offer to do it for them or go with them to help support them. Try to be organized and have all the ingredients you need for mealtimes to avoid last-minute changes that could increase anxiety for your loved one. Help someone who binge eats avoid becoming overwhelmed at the supermarket by writing a shopping list together or ordering food shopping online. Keep conversation neutral at mealtimes and do not discuss things like diet, exercise, or treatment. Agree a plan for distractions at mealtimes. For example, create a playlist of favorite songs, listen to podcasts or audiobooks, play a card game, do a jigsaw, watch TV, coloring in at mealtimes. Multi-packs of avoided of fear foods can be overwhelming. Buying food as a single item rather than a multi-pack can be more manageable for your loved one. Evening times can be the trickiest for people who binge eat. Ask your loved one what you can do to help with this or at other times they find difficult. Read more about how you can be supportive when socializing or in difficult situations on Beat's Tips for Supporting Someone with an Eating Disorder page. Supporting a child or young person with an eating disorder. Mealtimes might be particularly difficult. There are some things you can try to help. If your child is in treatment, ask their treatment team for advice on how to cope with mealtimes. Agree with everyone eating together that none of you will talk about portion sizes, calories, or anything else about the meal. Avoid eating foods that are visibly branded as low-calorie or diet foods in front of them or having them in the house. Try to keep things positive and light-hearted throughout the meal even if you don't feel that way on the inside. If your child tries to get too involved in cooking the meal as a way of controlling it, kindly ask them to set the table or wash up instead. Try not to focus on them too much during mealtimes. Try to make conversation and enjoy your own meal. Doing something as a family after the meal like playing a game or watching TV could help distract them from wanting to purge or over-exercise. Do not worry if a meal goes badly. Try to move on. The Mental Welfare Commission has information about how families can be involved in their relatives' care and treatment. How to support a child or young person at mealtimes. Mealtimes might be particularly difficult. There are some things you can try to help. If they're in treatment, ask their treatment team for advice on how to cope with mealtimes. Agree with everyone eating together that none of you will talk about portion sizes, calories, or anything else about the meal. Avoid eating foods that are visibly branded as low-calorie or diet foods in front of them or having them in the house. Try to keep things positive and light-hearted throughout the meal even if you don't feel that way on the inside. If they try to get too involved in cooking the meal as a way of controlling it, kindly ask them to set the table or wash up instead. Try not to focus on them too much during mealtimes. Try to make conversation and enjoy your own meal. Doing something as a family after the meal like playing a game or watching TV could help distract them from wanting to purge or over-exercise. Do not worry if a meal goes badly. Try to move on. Parent Club have a video about how eating disorders can affect young people. Supporting an autistic loved one with an eating disorder. Autistic people can have very specific requirements around their environment, including what they eat. The Peace Pathway has lots of really helpful information and resources for carers about eating disorders and autism. Getting support when moving location or service. If you're moving location to start a new job or educational course or moving between services like from child and adolescent mental health services, CAMHS, To adult mental health services, you can speak to your care team for information and advice. The specification for the care and treatment of eating disorders has guidance for continuity of care.